and this is pretty evident when we go into a business, and honestly, the 20 years I've been either coaching, leading, managing people, when you turn the screws on and you put somebody through some level of accountability, and they don't want it, they're going to be your biggest screamers. Like people that don't want accountability because they know when you look at my closet, there's stuff in the closet. There's going to be a lot of people that really push back on it. Yeah. I think the people that aren't saying anything are the ones who are like, I'm doing my job already.
Right.
And it's controversial, but I don't really care.
Do it, say it.
Consider yourself rebuked, Harvard Business Review.
You have to earn the right to get to the next level.
Process audit, not people audit.
I just want to see this done faster.
How many licks does it actually take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I was kind of being facetious a little bit.
3. Yes, sir, Mr. President.
2. It's true.
1. But we can cut that out.
We're going to look at Scottie Pippen's relationship with Michael Jordan. So he was recently on the PBD podcast, Scottie Pippen was, and it got brought up that outside of the court, there was pretty much no relationship.
Yeah.
So they never played golf together. They never went out to eat together.
Yeah.
So my thought was, within a business structure, you have a high performer, kind of that real dominant person. They're in charge, obviously, but then zero relationship outside of like the business setting.
Yeah.
So what does that create for that team environment?
Yeah. I'm going to start with, I did my homework on this topic. I watched an episode of The Last Dance last night because I knew we were going to cover this topic and I knew this was going to come up. And what I did notice, and this is an interesting take on it, is if you watched all the videos from The Last Dance, it's Michael Jordan and Ron Harper and one of the coaches and Scottie Pippen playing high stakes poker in the back of the bus for hours and hours at a time. Okay. So I saw PBD and I saw that quote he gave where he was like, we never had dinner, we never went golfing and blah, 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 blah. These guys spent like unlimited hours together. And so this idea that all of a sudden, like, Michael's a bad teammate because he didn't take him to dinner, like, Gary, we're very close. When's the last, have we ever, I think I was 16 when the last time I played golf with you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You know, like you're in the business, you're doing things together. So I mean, I saw that. I was kind of like, come on, Scotty's a big whiner anyway, so he needs to suck.
Plus, I mean, Scottie was probably spent a lot of time raising his kids, and Jordan didn't. So like, I mean Scottie's young son is actually phenomenal basketball player, right? Young
for sure.
Scottie. So like, he really worked on it. I think he helped develop that. And he gives his dad a lot of credit for it. So I mean, maybe his priorities were in the right place. When he got done with his job, he went and did what he was supposed to do. Raise his family.
Isn't one of Scotty's kids dating like Michael's ex-wife or something?
Yeah, that was the story for a minute. No, I think it's the other way around.
Okay.
One of Michael's kids is dating Scotty's ex-wife.
Okay.
Oh,
that's what's going on. And Michael was kind of like, I don't know if this is such a good idea. But to keep it to like a business perspective, like I said, I'm watching this whole thing take place, and they're in the back of the game ends. They just won the Eastern Conference Finals in their last season, and they're in the back drinking beers together. They're in the back of the bus playing cards together. Yeah. They're doing this, that. They're slapping hands on the court. It didn't seem to affect their performance in any way. Yeah. And secondly, you know, Michael Jordan's there to win championships, you know, and along the way of winning championships, somebody becomes a friend. You know, and you don't make friends with people because we had dinners and golfs together. You do it because you accomplish something together.
And we've all been in those offices before where everybody's buddy, and there's no productivity.
Right.
I mean, everybody just wants to mess around and like play video games and ping pong. And,
lots of ping pong.
I mean, like at what point are we going to actually work in here? Yeah. So like, I think the work ethic was there. I think they had to do that. I think they had to be productive. They had to work together. I think they had to have a good enough relationship where they won 6 championships. But like, I think after that, it's like, yeah, I'm done. I want to go home. You know, right. I mean, I love Brandon to death, but like, if I'm choosing where I'm spending Friday night, I ain't calling Brandon and be like, hey, you want to go out tonight? Like, we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So whether it's on the phone or it's in person, but I don't think it's a real big problem. But I think Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen had the best dynamics between two players I've ever seen play together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it obviously didn't hinder the work on the back end, but the idea that like work has to be this place where you have all of your best friends and all of your best that's great if you can have it. I mean, I think that's nice. I've had people I've worked with who are very close with, but to say it's like it's a bad thing if you know you guys aren't having golf and dinner together. I mean, I was with a team a while back, and like I mean, they were phenomenal at ping pong. Terrible at business, but amazing at ping pong. Yeah. And to the point where it's like this is all great, but I mean, I know you watch a lot of these teams. A great example is like Michael Jordan was really, really good friends with Charles Oakley, right? And when they traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright, Jordan was like lit. But let's take a step back. How many championships did we win with Charles Oakley? That'd be 0.
Yeah,
And Bill Cartwright came in there and is what they needed. They were not friends. They didn't get along with each other, but that's what the team needed at that point. Yeah. And nobody remembers, barely remembers that Charles Oakley was even on the Bulls. They're still friends to this day, but friendship and business performance, I don't know that necessarily you can put them together.
When we talk about culture, we talk about the 4 areas of culture. One is position. Yeah. I think the number one thing that creates good culture in a company and teams is people are in the right position, Yeah. And if you don't, you have to like pick up the slack for somebody else and help play their position. You're going to hurt the culture of the team. Yeah. And so I think that's why it's number one for us, even in Rise, is like, you got to be in the right position. And that's why Cartwright was so good for the Bulls. Was he maybe best friends with Michael? No, but he was the right player in the right seat. And right position. So I think that's what matters more. We were helping a client just in Indiana not too long ago, a couple of years ago, and Jacob was with us, and the client kept wanting to go play basketball. He's like, that's what we do. Every hour we go outside and we play around a horse. And I'm like, we're not playing horse today.
Yeah.
Where I was 320 pounds, first of all, I didn't want to play horse. Second of all,
around.
Second of all, I'm like, we need to focus on what we're here to do. So I think people think culture sometimes is like we get along outside of the office, not just in the office.
Yeah.
Inversely, do you think it causes potentially more complexity when there are close relationships outside of the business?
I don't think it's cause and effect. I don't think you can say one is the problem and the other is the answer. I think there's very unique things. We do this a lot with people. I mean, we fall into the trap sometimes even ourselves, like with like PI stuff, is putting people into boxes. The problem is they're not machines, and so what works for one person is not going to work for another. I've been to places where it's like these two guys are. I was with some guy. We have clients now that are twin brothers. And like they work together and they work very well together. It's really cool to see. They live together, they stay together, they're all together, and it's amazing. And they're killing it. They're doing a great job. I've seen other places where it's like husbands and wives that can't even work together. So I don't think you can just say one is the answer and the other is right. I just think you have to look at the situation and say, what's it doing to the work? Like what we're actually here for is what we talk about, the purpose indicator, the profit indicators, the performance indicators, and the process indicators. If it's all at the expense of that, then I think you have a real problem on your hands. That these two people are best friends and then their buddy quits and now you got to deal with all the crap of like his buddy quit and now I got to deal with all this over here. That's a mess and nobody wants to deal with that. I mean, you found it with the Bulls. Like Scottie was like, didn't want to have surgery in the summer. So he blows a half of a season, and Jordan's over here furious with him because he didn't get this taken care of. Yeah, that I don't think any amount of dinners or golfs is going to fix the fact that Jordan's frustrated that this guy's just limping in. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it's as clean as just one works and one doesn't. Yeah.
I think you got to be a very mature leader to have people around you and working with you that you're really close with. I mean, I really do, because if you're not mature enough as a leader to say, hey, we're done, we need to stop this, this isn't working, this needs to be changed, then I think it's going to be unhealthy. Yeah, for sure.
As soon as you take away the ability for one person to hold the other person accountable, it's over. It doesn't matter how good of friends they are. It doesn't matter if I can't look at you and say, hey, I mean, we run into this, you and I run into this, we all run into this. Is sometimes you got to look somebody in the face and say, hey, look, are you accountable or are you not? And if the relationship is going to be hindered by that level of thing. Now, the flip side of that coin is the kindest thing you could do for somebody is hold them accountable. Yep. Like, I believe in you enough that I think you can do this. I believe in you enough that I'm going to put this in your hands and let you go. The problem is if that friendship dynamic is so close that it's like, oh, I don't want to have to put on the stoplight report that he didn't get his contracts this week. Okay, well, great. We're going to be the most homeless best friends in the world at that point.
Yeah, this is turning into a charity or something.
Right. So Scottie wasn't too sad when he was flashing 6 rings. No, he looked just fine.
I mean, he definitely wasn't complaining about Jordan not being buddy-buddy with him.
Right.
So he's like, hey, you made me a lot of money. That's right. That was a good dynamic.
Yeah.
Moving on, we're about a couple weeks into DOGE. Initial thoughts. as a
I
whole.
mean, I love it. I mean, me and Brandon like joked around about like applying to be able to do it. So, I mean, I'm all about it. I know there's a lot of different people in the world right now that are up in arms about it, but I mean, I told you guys before we started the podcast, like, have you been to the post office?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever been in the post office, and that's a government-run agency, and it's anything like the rest of the government-run agencies, there's a lot of waste.
Yeah.
It's overstaffed, underproductive, and things get lost. I mean, so like if they're losing my $5.99 package, what do they think they're doing with my millions of dollars?
But I'll play the contrarian a little bit on it. I am all for it, and I think anytime there's transparency and clarity, I think that's always the best thing. You're learning a very active lesson, and there's a political component to this that we can't account for. But in a business environment, let's not just take this just one for one. If you walk in like Elon and you start saying to everybody in every situation, "Hey, look, I'm cutting everything out from under you." Now, in this situation, there's a lot of political reasons why people don't want to buy in, why people are having a hard time with it.
Right.
I'm cautious of is going into businesses sometimes and they're just saying, "Boy, we're just being vicious on people right now in expenditures." And I'm like, "Okay, hang on, time out just a second. If you give them bad tools, you should probably expect bad outcomes."
Yeah.
And so from a government perspective, slash. I love the idea of what they talked about. They did this. Elon talked about they did this at PayPal. Is they just literally went in, or they did this at Tesla. All they did is they went in and turned off all the credit cards.
Yeah.
And see how long it took for somebody to call back. And what they found was the first person to call them was the guy that'd been ripping them off for 3 years.
Yeah.
He's the one who wanted his money first, and they found out it was just an expense they didn't need.
Yeah, I think two things. One is that, and this is pretty evident when we go into a business, and honestly, the 20 years I've been either coaching, leading, managing people, when you turn the screws on and you put somebody through some level of accountability, and they don't want it, they're going to be your biggest screamers. Like people that don't want accountability because they know when you look at my closet, there's stuff in the closet. There's going to be a lot of people that really push back on it. Yeah. I think the people that aren't saying anything are the ones that are like, "I'm doing my job already.
Right.
Like, I'm good." I think another thing that great practice we used to do, I mean, I don't know how they'd pull it off at that level, but like make them all come sign for their check.
Yeah.
Like, just make them like, "Hey, this week you got to come pick up your check in person." Like,
Well,
and see how people are going to come in and sign.
You've been doing these for years. They said they're going to start doing weekly time studies.
Yeah.
They said they're going to have every employee send in every week. What did you do to this week?
Yeah.
And when you think about that, it's like everybody else is doing it.
It's called a time map. That's all it is.
Like every other business is required to do these things. Why would you not at least ask the question? And I think that's the biggest problem is like nothing has happened yet. All they're doing is asking questions and bringing things to light. And at that point, then decisions can be made. But without the data, I mean, we're just flying blind and throwing money away.
Like, I don't know if they'll actually do a productivity study, but it's genius to actually tell people who you are. Because everybody, like going back to my first point, everybody that has a problem with it, there's a reason why they have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm doing my job, I might not like the fact that I got to do a productivity study, but I don't know that I'm screaming from the mountaintops going like, "What are you talking about? I don't want to do this."
Yeah.
So like, I think they're kind of just sitting back and seeing who like comes to the top and gets frustrated.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to focus on them versus everybody else just kind of waiting and seeing. It's just like the tariff situation.
Yeah.
It's a tool. Like productivities are a tool. Just the thought of telling people you're going to do a productivity study is a tool. Like whether you actually ever do it. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at an employee before. I'm like, "Hey, well, here's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to like by the hour, just write down, just bulletize it out. I just want to know like what you did that hour. You don't have to tell me what you accomplished. Just tell me what you did. Answered emails, right? Like I drove to the post office. I went to a closing. Or I had a Zoom call. Like just write it down.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You want me to write that down by the hour?" Yeah. I want you to write it down by the hour. You know that the average worker in America, this study I saw years ago, is only productive 3.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that includes a leader.
I mean, Facebook put out a study years ago that said their traffic spikes at 2:00 every day.
Yeah.
Meaning everybody's done work and they get
So productivity is, Six Sigma, in the world of Six Sigma, we want productivity based on a 6.5 hour workday. So we're not even looking for 8 hours of productivity.
Yeah.
You know, and productivity is measured in does it bring value to your customer and is it essential to your business? And so, like, I think it's important to do these type of studies. They don't have to live in it. They don't have to do it for 2 years, but it's just to get a snapshot view of who's productive and who's not.
Yeah.
That's a good use of our money. That's a good use of my money.
Years ago, we first started doing consulting. Like we'd go to rooms and you'd be like, we'd leave and you'd be like, that guy will be gone when we come back next time. And I was just thinking, like, how is he doing that? And now it's like, I see it.
You see it too.
You walk in there and you're like, okay, guys, we're going to start measuring this on a weekly basis. And we're going to put in we got to figure out what the process is. We're not auditing anybody. We just need to see where the hole is in the process. And as soon as you start seeing the way that they adjust, the way that they're sitting, the way that they look about the situation, how they feel about everything, it tells you pretty much everything you need to know. And it's very telling that the process was incredibly broken on the government side when they went and said, okay, if you want out, we'll let you out. Here's a buyout. You can just step away. And the number of people that said, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Just told you how broken the process was and how much. Here's the part that is tough, which is everybody wants to be incredibly hard on these people. And I get that. They're absolutely right. These people should have been doing their job, whatever. But they're playing the deck you gave them. You gave them this incredibly inefficient government. You made the incentives all wrong. And I think that's what gets missed a lot of times is, and we see all the time in business. People make the incentives wrong. Charlie Munger says it. Like the only thing that matters is that you get the incentives right. And these people were incentivized for their departments to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They were never incentivized for them to get smaller.
Yeah.
If you went to the normal business and said, hey, look here, sales department, if you can shrink your team by this many by the end of this quarter and still get the same results, I'll bonus all of you. That would be a different thing. And that's all that they're doing right now is they're saying the incentives are changing. And I think that's a really important part of this is they're not doing anything but just changing the incentives.
I saw an article this morning from somebody in the UK, an official in the UK, just saying how envious the world is right now of the United States. Because they're like, every one of us should be operating this way.
Yeah.
Every one of us should be operating to excellence. Every one of us should be operating to save as much money as we can. Every one of us should be about helping the people. That's why we were elected and put in. If you're in a democracy, whether it's in the United States or outside the United States, you were elected to not waste our money.
Yeah.
You were elected to take the taxpayer dollar that we have and given to our government and make it go as far as you can make it go. But like when you have done what they have done, and honestly, I do need. I'm gonna say this. I do want more evidence, right? Like it's been 4 weeks now, and I was excited when I first started hearing these reports. But the truth is, right now, it's like prove it,
Right.
Like I'm hearing a lot, but I'm not seeing any evidence on it yet, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd like some evidence, right? Whether it's Jeffrey Epstein's list,
Yeah.
or the way we
The moon landing. Let's
Yeah,
figure out what
like
happened there.
we've declassified a lot of stuff already regarding Martin Luther King and
Yeah. How many licks does it actually take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Yeah, I
these
mean,
are
all
hard
those
questions
things.
we need to answer in life.
They probably spent $1 million.
They
from
did.
Doge. I guarantee you, Doge found $1 million spend on how to get to the middle.
I heard this and I told Dylan this on the way here, which is this is the ultimate example of Doge. Okay. Years ago, NASA spent hundreds of thousands of dollars inventing a pen that could write upside down.
Okay.
Because the astronauts in outer space, you got to be able to write upside down. They spent a fortune making this pen. And then they found out after they did it that the Russians just use a pencil. It's just like, that's where we're at right now.
Funny, actually.
It's stuff where it's like, it's so much excess. And I get the whole point of this, which is like, what I was saying was like, apples to apples is not the same here. You're going to have to be good about change management. Like, don't look at this and say, boy, they're moving so fast. He only has 4 years. In 4 years, it's done. And somebody else is going to get elected and the whole thing could go sideways. Yeah. You as a manager, like, these are your people. Like, you've decided that this is your team. And before you just go in and just rip through the place, take a step, take a thought. Again, make changes. Don't not make changes. Like the people pay us a lot of money to come consult businesses to not change stuff. You have to change stuff. But at the same time, don't look at it as like I can just be a horrible leader about it and just drop this on everybody like a big dictator. You have to stop and say, here is how we're going to do this. I saw how you looked at me there. How we're going to do this and how it's going to get changed and what's going to take place.
Yeah, I think he has 18 months.
Yeah.
I think it's it. I mean, I think you have, elections coming up in 24 months from now. and you're not guaranteed the House and the Senate again.
Yeah.
So I think you have 18 months because I think there are people, when you have the Senate at 51% and things like that, like there are people that when they get closer to election, they're going to start to wash kind of their standards again. And they're like, what does the people need to hear me say to get reelected? Because that's what they're going to be all about.
100%.
And you saw it when Trump was coming back in and when it looked like he was going to win. Everybody's like pro-Trump again and singing his praises. I don't think that's going to be the case in 18 months. So I think Trump knows that. And I think he has 16 months left from right now.
Yeah.
And that's all he has. And that's why it's moving so fast. Somebody actually asked, speaking of DOGE, somebody asked Trump the other day, I heard that he said, what do you think of Elon Musk and what he's doing? So I honestly wish he'd move faster.
Yeah, Elon tweeted him back and said, "Yes, sir, Mr. President." Yeah, he's gonna
like,
get it.
I just want to see this done faster at this point. So,
and I think that is the caution: is like take the principle of efficiency in your business, efficiency in your company, getting clear visuals of what people are doing. All of that is great, but also understand, don't take it same for same.
Yep.
He's working under a different set of rules that are the government and the presidency, not CEO of a company. You have to be mindful that the principle is good. The practice might be different in your application.
So
I just
press
get
into
worried
that.
about it.
So what, if you're an owner of a company
Yeah.
and you're wanting to see accountability,
Yeah.
that your employees for X amount of time have had zero expectation that they're going to have that. And then all of a sudden you kind of flip this switch on them of like, I want everything documented, what you're doing every day.
yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Obviously you have the right to do it. That's
Of course.
fine. But how do you do that in a healthy way where it's like, hey,
This
we
is
haven't
a-
had this expectation from you.
Absolutely.
We're going to implement this in phases, immediate. Like, obviously, if you're wanting to get rid of employees, as the
That's
government
right.
wanted to do, then you can come in and just start, cutting heads off. But if you're like, hey, I have a smaller team, I need to hold them at greater accountability.
Yeah.
How do we get this in a healthy manner?
Process audit, not people audit. Audit the process. Hey guys, I'm trying to get a visual on what we do as a company, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You talked about this. I heard you say this years ago, which is like, what's the first thing you do? You fire somebody, you bring somebody new, and what's the first thing you do?
To review the process.
To review the process. So it's like, before we go cutting heads off, let's stop for a second and say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to measure every day these points in our process. Like we do to create process measure, key process indicators, measure these on the daily. This has no bearing on your job. This has no bearing on you losing your job. This has no bearing on your income. We're just trying to figure out if this is even a good plan. The world's moving so fast right now, it may not even be the right thing from 6 months ago. We're doing things at Sharper now. We would have never dreamed of doing 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But the process changed and we audited and said, this is a better process.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why. We don't hire for position and we don't audit people. We hire for process.
Yeah.
It's like PI. We put people in positions based on what PI, the process dictates they need from a behavioral perspective. That's why I get very frustrated with like masterminds sometimes, because they're like, you go to a room and everybody's like, oh, the ideal person for your sales position is this profile. And I'm like,
Go Mavericks. Get you some Mavericks.
yeah. And I'm like, and sometimes they say other things, but I'm like, well, how can you say that? Because their process isn't your process. And we need a different behavioral trait based on the process. We need to audit people based on the process they're doing. Is the process getting results? DOGE isn't doing anything but that. They're literally going in, USAID. They went in and they looked at the process and they said, what process are we doing and where's the money going?
Yeah.
And when they found the money was going in a process to aid those certain areas, they said, we got to cut that out. We're not going to spend that money. Well, if you're associated with that process, you're going to go. You could have been phenomenal at your job. Here's the thing. I think there are people being laid off right now that are incredible at what they were doing. Phenomenal. And I think the workforce should find those people and bring them in. It wasn't their fault. Their processes got eliminated. Just the process they were working in was funding and subsidizing financial things that weren't in the best interest of the business and the company and the country. And that's the same thing in a company. When we go in, what are we doing? We're not looking at people. I'm not looking at whether or not your people failed you. Right. Most of the time, it's the leader that fails more than the people fail. But I'm looking at, like, what processes are you doing? And if those processes, which ones are in the best interest of the company? Do they bring value? Are they essential? And if they're not, then we got to cut it out. And if you're somebody who does that process every day and we can't find you another process to live in, then you're not going to have a job here.
Right.
And that's why, because it's not in the best. I don't care if
Well,
you're Uncle Joe.
And I'm doing you no favors.
You're not. Yeah.
I'm not doing you any favor by pushing you into something that you're not going to be good at.
Right.
You're not going to enjoy doing it. You don't want to do it. You don't want to be held accountable to the standard just because simply that's not who you are as a person. I'm not and this is the part everybody misses. I'm not helping you. You know, you think like I'm going to save everybody by giving them a job and doing like to an extent, but like most of the time, the next job they have, I mean, how many stories are there of these people where it's like the next job was the one that like kicked it all off for them?
Yep.
And we feel like, well, if I have to let them go, blah, blah, blah. You're right. It's your responsibility. You should do everything you can to keep them. But at the end of the day, if the process doesn't fit, the process doesn't fit.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of DOGE. Big fan of DOGE. But
fan of Doge.
I think, you know, don't just take it straight across and say, I'm going to go hire Elon to rip my business apart.
Sure. So what are the implications of a company having a third party come in and basically audit them?
Well, for me, I mean, I think when we truly have a wasted process, a wasted financials in a company, it's good to have somebody come in and audit that, right? But if you're, and this happens way too often, where somebody wants to hire us to come in just because they're not good enough leader to let somebody go, right? They made the wrong hire. They don't know how to get rid of this person, so they'll hire us.
Gary will get rid of him.
Yeah, hire Gary. Get rid of him. The other thing too is I think a lot of time when it's not the good time to bring somebody like us in is if you as a leader haven't gotten your house in order. If you're not willing to accept the change, if you're not willing to do what you have to do to grow. I mean, I've actually gone into offices in the last couple of years now when everybody in the company is craving what we're offering, and the leader's like, I don't know if we're going to do that.
Yep.
They're not ready for it. They're like, I don't want that level of accountability. I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to turn this into like a true business, and the employees are craving it. I've literally had people hire us before because their employee found us and is like, please hire them.
Yeah.
Please make my job more efficient. He's like, I had the guy literally tell me, I don't even care if it doesn't work out for me here. But like this company needs to be redone.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be restructured. And so like if the leader themselves isn't willing or ready to be held accountable, this would have never worked under the last administration. Like it wouldn't have, because the leadership didn't want it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Elon Musk walking into the last administration going like, we're cutting that and we're cutting that and we're cutting that? You know what would have happened? They would have laughed him out of the room, just like they're trying to do right now.
No more ice cream.
Yeah.
No more.
Ice cream. But I mean, that's what happens when the leadership aren't bought into being held accountable and being transparent. They don't want to have that happen either.
Yeah,
So-
we obviously see all the upside benefits of it because we work with the companies that aren't doing it, and like we're kind of the first step into doing third party. I mean, if you had to look at a downside per se, the one I see is if they get multiple third parties involved. This happens. I mean, I was with the guy years ago, and it was like, yeah, I've hired these 4 programs. Like, it doesn't work. Again, you look at Rise, and it's like one thing is built on top of another, is built on top of another, is built on top of another. What doesn't work is if you had, and this happened, is they have Elon in there, and it was going to be Vivek. And it was going to be all these other people. And then it was like, okay, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
There's got to be one person. We got one doctrine that we believe in. We believe this is the way to do it. And I think that's the mistake I see a lot of times, which is, well, we're going to try to kind of like Frankenstein together this new system over here that this third party is bringing in. And we're going to kind of Frankenstein that together with like kind of what we already have and what we already do. The companies I see that are incredibly successful, it's not because it's our curriculum. It's not because it's our ideas and our philosophies, but the ones where you see their Instagram stories and they got the book open. I saw one just the other day in Florida. They got the book out in the middle of a meeting and saying, no, this is the way we process a problem. Is it the perfect way to process a problem? I think so. You think so. Yeah. Is it? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But at least there is a belief system around how we process issues and problems and solutions. That's the only thing I see is like you bring a third party in, you pay them a lot of money, you do all these different things, and then you're like, yeah, but we're not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Big mistake. Again, you got to just believe in something, even if you don't believe in it perfectly. Even if Elon isn't doing everything exactly the way you'd want him to, you still got to go with it and stay on track.
All right. Let's see. Let's jump into this Harvard Business Review.
Yeah.
It was about retaining employees, kind of going through the Great Resignation over the last couple of years. So it says to retain employees, promote them before the job market heats up. So it's a couple kind of thoughts there. When employees are promoted, it can have a big impact on whether they decide to stay with the company down the road.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think you should be promoting people that have earned the right to be promoted.
Mhm.
So if they're implying that you're promoting good quality people that have
Mhm.
earned the right to be promoted, then like why are you holding them back anyway? I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about in our 9 box, like how do we know a company's scaling properly? Well, we have people in positions that are in the top right corner of the 9 box. We have people in our culture that are in line with our values and vision, the top right corner of our 9 box. And then we have them setting in process that's in the top right corner of the 9 box, and they're in a product that's in the top right corner. So a fast scaling company, we can see it really quick and rise, like where a company's slowing their scale is what's falling in the lower left corner of that 9 box, right? If you have people in positions that are in the lower left corner of the 9 box, I'm not promoting them.
Yeah.
Like the Harvard Business Review suggests, just to keep them around. That's not happening. Like they're slowing my growth. Now, and I think this is where the business world has to be a very fine line has to happen between like, a Fortune 100 or even bigger company and an entrepreneur. Like an entrepreneur cannot afford to hire someone and bring them into their team and that they're a workhorse. They can't. The Fortune 500 companies can be filled, 60, 70% of their staff can be filled with workhorses, and it works. But like an entrepreneur can't afford that. And an entrepreneur, honestly, shouldn't read that article and like, I better keep all my people. No. Like if they're not bringing value and they're setting in a process that brings value and it's essential, DOGE, you gotta get rid of it. Yeah. If you have somebody who's not the right person for your organization or aligned with your values and vision, then you don't just promote them, it kills the culture. And then last is you don't promote people in a position that they are a workhorse or an idle genius or somebody that is like has high potential, but they're not performing. Or they have high performance, but their potential is limited. So like I only want to promote those people and keep them around. Honestly, I think it is a big opportunity to it's one way to like kind of clean up the staff and get new opportunity.
Yeah, it's the other side of it's just kind of like if you're using this promotion as like incentive to keep somebody around. Number one, I think that's a wrong way of looking at it from Harvard Business Review. I get what they're doing. I mean, in a corporate environment, that's how you keep people around is we've got all these layers of management. And we just kind of give you a title versus having it overpay you. Again, I think it goes back to the Charlie Munger quote, which is, get the incentives right. A lot of times people don't want the title. They want a few extra bucks, and if they've earned the right and they've earned it and it's ROI positive to pay them the extra money, pay them the extra money. This idea of just putting them in roles of responsibility, we see this all the time. Your best salesperson is not always the best sales manager, very rarely, right? The best person who does operational type of work can be the worst COO. So the idea that they just get to work up the ladder because they've got tenure or something, I mean, we're seeing how that plays out in the education system. It's trash. Because you're taking people who have not upskilled, who have not gotten better, who have not earned the right to do anything, and saying, well, congratulations, you've been here 10 years, so we're gonna move you up. And it just breeds this really weird environment where it's not a meritocracy. You don't get a promotion because you got any better. You get promotion because you're due. That's just a sad way to run a business. I see why they're talking about. And like in a Fortune 500 environment, you come out of college, you get the job, you get the promotion, you get the next promotion, you get the next promotion. But as the world keeps shifting to more of an entrepreneurial world versus a corporate world, we better get that thinking out of our heads. Because at the end of the day, if you go into some of these shops where it's 10, 20 people, I don't care what your title is. I posted it the other day, like Jerry Jones's dad said to him. Jerry came home complaining about not getting enough playing time on the football field. And his dad goes, Jerry, if they ask you to be the water boy, drown them. That's the way entrepreneurs have to think about this, which is, hey, you want promotion? Great. Grow this company with me. And there'll be plenty of opportunity for everybody. But this idea that you've earned some new title, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's controversial, but I don't really care.
Do it, say it.
That's why DEI programs are trash.
Yeah.
They are. They're absolutely trash. That's why so many people are getting rid of them right now. Disney just got rid of theirs. Why? Because they're trash. You can't just throw people in positions and give them, because you want to keep somebody, or you want to make somebody happy, or you want to please the world, or a political party, or something like that. Like at the end of the day, you have to be people in the right seat because they've earned the right. We say it all the time. You have to earn the right to get to the next level, whether you're a company or an employee.
Yeah, they're political. They're not practical.
No.
And entrepreneurship is practical.
Yeah,
It's zeros and ones. It's like, did you make money? Did you get the performance done? Did you do those things? And when you start layering in all of these like political type things that the Fortune 500, I mean, you look at some of these like tech firms, they'll go 10 years before they're profitable. Where does that work in entrepreneurship?
No.
Like that doesn't work. The fact that you're just going to keep throwing cash into these systems and then you breed these worlds where it's like, well, I'm due for my promotion. Well, earn it.
Tell people all the time, entitlement's one of the major reasons why people fail. Is because everybody starts to feel entitled, and we're actually telling them it's okay to feel entitled right now, and that's not okay.
Yeah,
it's not okay to tell people that they should be entitled for the next role. I don't want to keep somebody that's entitled. I just don't. I think I think we should have grateful people in our businesses that have earned the right to scale and grow. Let's think about it though. Like. Why would somebody want to stay with your company when there's other opportunity? In Rise, I think we've done a great job of really capitalizing on like what the employment world wants. They want the emotional paycheck. That promotion is a financial paycheck. That's all it is. But that's not why people stay. The Great Resignation actually told us and proved to us as entrepreneurs that people want the emotional paycheck even over the financial check. I forgot the study. I think it was 67% of the people that quit their job in the Great Resignation quit it because of the lack of emotional paycheck, not financial. And what is an emotional paycheck? We talk about it in Rise, where it's like, office environment. It's the culture that's there. It's the brand that they're associating with. What are those things? And then more importantly, you want to, I rebuke what they say, actually.
Get on them.
No, honestly,
get at it.
Why don't you take some time, really good book, by the way, called The Dream Manager. Why don't you take some time, get to know your people well enough to know what their life's purpose is, and then help your company achieve what it needs to achieve, and then in return help those people achieve their purpose.
Let's go.
Because if you align their purpose with the company's purpose, and your company's purpose helps them achieve their purpose, they're not chasing after the next job opportunity that's coming their way.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch teams that it's the exact same title, the exact same pay, the exact same everything, and two completely different qualities of human beings.
Yeah.
You just like, it blows me away sometimes. You'll sit there and you'll be like, wait a minute, you're making how much? And you're watching just spectacular work performance.
Yeah.
And then you go to the other side and the guy who's asking for a raise every 5 minutes, he's like, no performance. And what you find is you found an owner who said, hey, look, man, we're gonna go here together. We're going to accomplish together. They're bought into what they're... I was with the team in California a few weeks ago. I mean, you want to talk about like locked in. But I mean, this guy has brought these guys together with him from like interns to like partners. And it's just, it's that belief in each other that is just, it's completely different. Now, all that to say, you can't give people pennies. You got to give them something. But at the end of the day, the decision to stay or to go, if it's just about the financial compensation, if that's the only determining factor, we talk about this all the time. If that's all it comes down to, then you have half to employees, not want to employees, and it's constantly going to be, what more can I get out of you? It's Simon Sinek. When people are financially invested, they want to return. When people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. And the emotional paycheck, it gets kind of a funny rap because it's like, oh, it's not a real paycheck. It's an emotional paycheck. But when you take it to those levels and you say, great, are you here to contribute or you're here because you need a check? And we all need a check. We gotta eat, right? I get it. But is there something you want to do more? Or are you trying to get away with the bare minimum? And then when that bare minimum isn't hit, then I got to come down. Then we're having questions about me auditing your process.
Yeah. Consider yourself rebuked, Harvard Business Review.
It's true.
Oh, there goes that.
So let's lean into their ideal here though. And that is somebody who's promoted is 47% less likely to quit. And so I think that's what they're going after is if you're moving someone into a new position, we have this massive wave of people quitting.
For how long? That's the bigger
okay,
question.
okay.
Is like, how long are they less like? I mean, studies are done like this all the time,
Sure.
and it frustrates the fire me. It's like for the next 90 days, they're less likely to quit. What about in 6 months? What happens when the next person
They failed to
offers
mention
them
the bonus check from the Harvard Business Review.
So okay, but this leans into. I think this leans into
Yeah.
the last aspect of like our hiring process within Rise, which is the mobility of somebody in a seat, right?
Yes.
So I think they're kind of their conclusion is take a long-term view on talent management strategy, and so
Yeah.
developing your talent into positions into people that can move into those positions.
But it's a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator.
Okay.
The guy who owns the Houston Rockets, I was listening to an interview with him. He owns a very large company, and he talked about the fact he started his business with 30 people. All 30 of them are still there. Okay, that's a lagging indicator of the fact that he has a really good culture. It's not a leading indicator that he gives people fake promotions for not doing anything.
Sure.
I think that's the challenge with that data and the challenge with that philosophy, which is if you're using it as a carrot to get somebody to do their job, guess what? They were a horrible employee. Guess what they're going to be? They're going to be a horrible manager. That's just how it's going to be. The idea that you're going to move up and all of a sudden learn all these management skills, that's baloney.
Was this funded by a government program or DOGE? I mean, that's the voice that I have because it's like at the end of the day,
This study brought to you by USAID.
yeah, was it funded by the USAID? I mean, I don't understand. But like, of course, people aren't going to leave when you give them more money and a job raise. I mean, it's like we got to put an article out. So let's put an article out that makes a lot of sense. That can't be like talked down.
These jokers will spend 20 minutes on a podcast wasting time talking about it.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
I mean, it honestly kind of is. It's
Throw
like
that study
well,
away.
if you want to keep your people, promote them. Yeah, I mean, makes a lot of sense. But should you be promoting them is the bigger question. And then how many of these people should you not be keeping?
Yeah.
Right? Like
the next study,
maybe 20% of the 49% that stays shouldn't be staying. You know?
next study is going to be on how to get rid of people, demotions.
Yeah, productivity reports. How do you get rid of people? Pay them 9 months to leave.
Yes. 99% of people don't want to be held accountable at work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. See, I love these studies. $5 million spent our taxpayer money. Probably spent on a study that said, if you want to keep somebody, give them more money.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Next
Thanks,
week's
Harvard
studies.
Business Review.
Diamonds are shiny.
Must have been like a laid off government employee that
That's
went
what
for
it
Harvard
is.
Business Review, and now he's
I
bringing his
like
expertise to it.
I like it.
I'll try to find
Where
something.
you finding this crap?
All right. Let's see here. Let's jump into. We touched on this just a bit, but Trump tariffs.
Yeah.
So, do you think he'll actually put them in place, or keep just using them as leverage against some of our bordering allies and kind of our?
I think if he doesn't act on threats at some point, they're not going to be valid anymore. So I think he's got to play it right. Like I don't think he's going to use every tariff he says he's going to apply.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there are some that are just like brainless. I think you have to. Like for example, Canada. Like what are we not? Why? I mean, how are we being tariffed at 60-70% on stuff where they're not getting like 5-10% tariffs? Like I think he has to in those scenarios. And I don't think those are the ones that are becoming known around, nobody's talking about those, right? Those are going to happen. It's naturally going to happen. But I think the ones that he's, saying out there in mainstream media, I think they're probably more along the lines of like just a scare tactic or, just incentivize. I mean, they work.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Mexico and look at,
They came running to the borders to defend them. Yeah.
I mean, so they work. I mean, I think at some point here, empty threats are only going to last so long. I think you actually have to take action on some of them. I think it's a fine line. Tariffs are a fine line. People talk about like, will they drive up the cost of goods? And I think they will. I mean, but they'll also drive people to buy more from America. I think it'll drive people to make more products in America.
Yeah.
And I think as an American, we got to be willing to, if you're truly going to make America great, put America first and put the American people first, then it starts with our products. It starts with our, our companies.
Yeah.
We can't keep funding companies and stuff and giving all this money to third world countries and even, first world countries in companies to make products for America when we have the resources. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand at all why, like, we will spend money to like buy oil from another nation when we have the most oil rich nation right here in America.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we're going to figure out a way to get rid of the need of oil in general, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But like, if we're like, that's something that frustrated me, I think, about the last party. It's like, all right, we're going to get rid of consumption of oil in America. But we're going to spend millions and billions of dollars buying it from somewhere else.
Right.
Well, it's easier to funnel money back into your own pocket from monies going overseas than it is internally. But
I mean,
there's that.
I mean, when you have a broken system, it sounds like it was pretty easy to funnel money, period. So, like, whether it was going around the world or coming back in. But, I mean, I think that's the thing about tariffs. Tariffs are an equalizer. They're the ultimate equalizer.
Yeah.
You know, it makes people decide.
They're terrified of them.
No,
they are. I love it.
No, we can cut that out.
Well, I think it's worth talking about. Are you terrified? Because you're going to get tariffed if you're not. No, but I think it's a great equalizer of balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a client in Ireland. So 2 weeks ago I was in Ireland, and you're driving through Ireland, and they drive you through this town. They were like, used to be the most dangerous town in Ireland, and now it's the Silicon Valley of Ireland. And what they're doing there is they're making chips and pharmaceuticals. And so when Trump came with the tariffs, what does he want to bring back to the U.S.? Chips and pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And they said literally the entire Irish economy now is on the back of selling chips and pharmaceuticals. I was there. We went to a restaurant. And the guy goes, he's like, "Oh, you're from the U.S." He's like, "Oh, you're here with IBM?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, usually everybody's here with IBM." And again, it's coming back to a place where it's like, if we have the ability, if we're consuming it, why would we not make it? And why would we not care for the product? And the only answer is it's a financial reason. And the financial reason is our what we export and what we import is so imbalanced. And I think that's all the point Trump's making. You said it earlier. He does this move where he says the crazy thing and then sees how far people are going to let him go. Like the other day he was on there saying he wants to run for a third term. He doesn't want to run for a third term. He just wants to see if people would even be open to the idea. Yeah. That's all this is him dropping something out there and saying, "Hey, we're gonna even out the trade deficit. Yeah. We're gonna get this thing to where it's even. We send you $100, you send us $100." And I think that's all. He's just making the point. Now, whether he's gonna take that point to, literally, I mean, you go. We're sitting in Ireland. Every TV on is Donald Trump. Every newspaper is Donald Trump. It's a conversation taking place where these governments, the better thing for them is to be much more self-sufficient themselves. All it's doing is opening up that conversation. Is saying, what would it look like if we had to be we do these thought exercises all the time, like with Sharper. What would happen if this happened? Yeah. And now we can
single point of failures.
Now you can go back through and say, what would make us strong if we changed that point? And that's all I think he's doing. He's dropping things out there and saying, what would happen if we took away all the pharmaceuticals and all the chips from Ireland? Yeah. What does that look like to you so that somebody doesn't get caught? Because Ireland has a history of them pulling the potatoes out from under them and almost tanking the whole country, right? He's just getting them prepared for what might be.
Well, I think it's even more genius than that. Like, what if it doesn't come back to the United States?
Yeah.
I mean, you levy a country like that with a tariff that could literally cripple their whole economy. What do you think they're doing? Hey, like, if you don't take it from us, we'll give it to you at this price. We'll make you exclusive. You'll be the first person to get it. Like, whatever. Like, there's so many positive things that come. That's why I say it's called the great equalizer.
Yeah.
Whether they actually take it away and bring IBM chips back to the United States and we're manufacturing them here or not, like, if we can keep it over there and it's manufactured there and they make a ton of money and we get it at a lower cost and we can pay Americans to do it here.
Win-win.
Like, what entrepreneur doesn't want to do that? Yeah. Where you send something overseas and it gets produced at a lower rate than what you can produce here locally. Yeah. I mean, that's just smart business. Yeah. That's all it is for him. He's just trying to figure out a way to put American people first and our economy first. And if whether it's producing it there or producing it here, the tariff just creates the conversation at the table.
And the part that doesn't get stated enough, which is America is the most humanitarian, philanthropic country in the world. We send more money overseas for special projects, for people in need than any other country. If people keep more money, historically Americans have been more caring and more giving and more gracious. And so this idea that, like, we're just going to stuff our coffers, for sure. Hopefully Americans succeed. Hopefully the businesses you and I work with have enough money to keep hiring consultants. All of those things are great. But the flip side of the coin, which is what other, and I don't mean to sound like elitist, but what other nation would you like to have that money?
You are though. But.
To be able, well, that's fine. To be able to redistribute it back out to the world and find people in need and be caring with it. The only difference is we would be getting to choose to do it versus being forced.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when the American people make the decision to send money to Mexico or to send money to Ukraine
Or Canada,
like, I mean, that's noble. That's what it's meant to do.
Sure.
But when you're sending money, tax purposes, to a government that then you don't know, and there's no transparency and there's no accountability, and then you find out through a little transparency in 4 weeks that it's grossly mismanaged.
Yeah.
Then now I want my money. Somebody's like, hey, you know, like this is great and we're going to save on taxes. I'm like, no, I want my money back. Like, I want an actual refund. Like, you know, if this money was wasted and if money's coming back from Ukraine, then I think it ought to go straight back in American taxpayers' pockets.
I think Apple, they just announced, I think today or something, they're doing like $500 billion in states now. They're keeping, like, they just, some projects they're doing. It's like $500 billion they're keeping in.
Yeah, they're close shoring, as they're talking a lot about that right now. Is even companies, even countries that where they were making stuff over in China and Taiwan are trying to get that same stuff in Mexico, Venezuela, and more close shore, because what they found, what the supply chain broke during COVID showed us all is if it takes 6 months to get it here and they're parked out in the middle of the ocean because they can't bring it in, we've put ourselves in a bad spot. And so that's the part of this that you know, I feel like if you tell the whole story, which is, hey guys, we're going to tariff these North American countries a little bit, and we're going to regain control of the Panama Canal, and we're going to do all these things with the long-term objective of bringing everything back to here. I think it's, if you tell the whole story, it starts looking a little bit better than just, oh my goodness, this guy's charging 25% extra on everything.
Yeah.
So
All right. Any more thoughts there?
no, I feel good about that.
All right. Segue into our last topic here. Obviously, we're probably all a little biased, devout followers of Jesus, but The Chosen show. Have you watched it?
I haven't.
Have you?
I've got a little bit of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've seen,
Right.
I've read the stories and kept track of it a little bit, but
Obviously, I think it's a very good show. But from like the business and marketing side, I feel like they've done some pretty incredible things. It's the largest crowd-funded TV series in history. Like off the bat, raised $11 million, 16,000 donors. You haven't really seen the show very much, so it'd be hard to judge. I think it's very well done.
Yeah.
A lot of like
the
Christian
production
shows,
is really good. Yeah.
A lot of Christian shows are pretty cheesy.
Sure.
They went through some arbitration, I think, with
Come on. Not, you know, I mean, not all Christian shows are cheesy.
You're a big VeggieTales guy? Is that
No,
what
I mean,
you're going to?
I was kind of being facetious a little bit. But, I mean, they're all,
like which
actually,
one? Like which one?
I mean,
I mean, like you have like The Passion. That's like a Hollywood production. You know, that's not cheesy.
I mean, you know, Facing the Giants was done really well. I thought that was a really good movie.
Yeah. But once you bring into like aspect like biblical characters and these sorts of
it
things
gets
and
weird.
the miraculous, it's like it can get really weird really
go
quick.
sideways real fast.
So they've done a good job at managing that, but I feel like it has brought a lot more religious or biblically based shows. Like Amazon's coming out with a David series right now. They've kind of paved the way for new shows to come out. That faith-based entertainment, if you will.
Sure.
So this is more recent. I didn't even have it on the notes here. I think last week they dropped their trailer for season 5, and they ranked #1 on YouTube, like #1 trending on YouTube that day. So the strategy was they hyped it up obviously for several months, and then they made you go search for it. So it wasn't like, you know, the emails and things that went out were all posts about it with no links. So if you wanted to go see it, it was on YouTube, and you had to search
Which
Chosen
drove up the
trailer.
algorithm.
Exactly. I thought that was really
Sneaky.
really smart.
Yeah.
But so they raised over $11 million. In June of 24, they were #1 on Apple TV. Their app. Hundreds of millions viewed globally. It's the most translated TV show in over 50 languages.
Wow.
And they're aiming for 600.
Wow.
So, obviously, thoughts on like their marketing and just kind of some. I mean, you're coming here with a very specific crowd you're targeting initially.
Sure.
Obviously, like a Christian community. You know, not many people are going to be interested in it off the bat. Raise all this capital, come through, and now they're in season 5, and kind of definitely had to shift multiple times, and had some issues with their like the producer Angel Studios and different things like that. Just kind of some like thoughts on their marketing and
I think they've done a really good job with the way that they've gone about it. To take it from a Christian perspective, I think it's sad that we can only raise $11 million. I mean, some of these, you look at the production on some of these Marvel and Disney productions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Yep. If there's an appetite for that type of content, the number, it's high. Crowdfunding that much money. I mean, from a strategic standpoint, I think every show should be crowdfunded. If you want to see it, you pay for it. Yeah. All sorts of stuff gets made. I mean, the business of Hollywood is trash.
Well, and it's completely free. That's right, too. It's like they're not charging anybody to watch it. But
that's my point is, like, I mean, they'll make these movies and lose $20 million because nobody wanted to see Kevin Costner in Waterworld. Like, it was trash. If you would have said, crowdfund it, and then number one, you're invested, literally, and so you're going to go watch it. So the strategy is really good. I mean, Indiegogo, what's the other one? Kickstarter. Those kind of brands have done a really good job of, like, this is a very interesting strategy that's launched a lot of great businesses. So I like the strategy side of it. The search is kind of cool how they did that. That could have blown up in their face just as well as it worked. So I think it's one of those where it's like you're playing Monday morning quarterback a little bit. I could tell you 100 times where that probably would not have worked so well. Yeah. But they've done a good job with it. I always caution on this kind of stuff, which is, like, especially if you're a believer, this is supplementary, not a replacement for. Sure. And so this isn't, this is something where you get a better picture of the life of Jesus Christ so that you can go study it, learn from it, and live it out. This is not just an educational piece. I always get concerned with this kind of stuff, that we turn Jesus into a character, not a person. So just being careful on that side. That'll be my Christian rant. I'm done there for now. But the marketing has been very, very impressive with the amount of money they've had to work with. And I think it comes to, which is a biblical principle, which is good stewardship. They've been good stewards with what they've had. It's the greatest story ever told, so they started from a really good place there. But I think they've done a good job. I think there's room there where more Christians, if you want this kind of content, is something you want to be a part of. 11 million feels light to me. I feel like they could have done more.
Well, I think they had some metrics off the bat, and I don't confirm this, but I think they had certain percentages that they were going to pay back people.
Oh, I see.
That invested before the
maybe like
creators,
maybe like a tenth.
Well, it was like 150 or some percentage that you were gonna make before any of, like, the producers took any profit.
Interesting.
It's cool.
That's pretty cool. I think a couple things. One, it's the fifth season.
Yep.
So I think the marketing was at the right time. I think that's the one thing with marketing. Like, people try so many different things. And they're like, well, this company did this. Maybe we should do that. And it's like, nobody even knows who you are. Why would they go searching for you? Like, we're going to make it hard for you to find our stuff. Well, like, that's not a good idea when you're in stage one of business. We're going to be incognito. You can't know. You don't know where we are.
I think it's a. And again, if Christian people don't want the content, I'm good with it. Like, if it's something you don't need, no problem. I just look at it like, I don't know. I'm like, as Christians, I think we take success too easy. Like, $11 million is a lot of money. It's not that much money. Like, it's a lot, but I mean, some people took haircuts to put that together. That cost more than $11 million to put together. And I just, from the standpoint of, like, if we're going to believe in it, we're going to do it. I should certainly hope that, like, if this thing is going to become a tool to show people who Jesus was, we certainly could do a little bit better than $11 million.
Yeah, I guess as a Christian, for me, I'm tired of playing behind the ball all the time. Like, I'm tired of, like, everything that we celebrate is like, it would be laughable if it was Hollywood.
Right.
Like, but we celebrate it as Christians. Like, woohoo, we did it. We got here. It's like, why aren't we the top? Like, why aren't we the one that Hollywood wants to be like? And I think that's what frustrates me the most. Like, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was like, had all these, like, real big names on it in the world. And it's like, success happens when you become obsessed.
Yeah.
Like, obsession is a very, very, like, equalizer to, like, getting successful, like, your obsession is. And so, like, I just wonder how much, like, Christians, I don't know how obsessed Christians are with being a Christian.
Yeah, perfect analogy. They made a movie years ago with Russell Crowe, and it was Noah. Completely sacrilegious.
Yeah.
There was nothing, like, they made, like, a mockery almost of the Bible in this movie. I guarantee you they spent more than $11 million. guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that's the part where it drives me a little crazy, which is like, hey, if we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's all get in behind it and let's push this thing. I know there's reasons why people don't, and there's some people who are against it, some people are for it, and that's all fine and good. But man, I mean, if it's making the impact that it seems to be making, the other thing to keep in mind is, I mean, there are still a majority of people, especially in the U.S., who would at least profess to be Christians, who would at least look at something like that. So I think their audience is better than we would maybe guess. But at the same time, man, I hear that number and it's like, it's a lot of money, but we could do better.
Be more. Here, I got a question for you. Can we all agree that there's two real sides? You know, we were with Patrick Lencioni last year, me and Ryan Pineda were, and he said, like, the world has really gotten to the point where there's two sides. There's no more in the middle. You know, you're being forced to be on one side or the other. There's good and there's bad. There's evil. You know, and I think one of the things we do as Christians that kind of hurt things like this is that the good is all confused on what good is.
Yeah.
Where evil, just they know what evil is.
Right.
Like, there's no arguing about who's more evil than the other.
Right.
But everybody over here is arguing about how much better or how much good we are. Or this religion's more good than this religion, or this way of doing it is more good than this. And it's like, I think we are standing our own way.
Yeah.
Of like building up a big enough like influence to get more than 11, right? Like, because it's like, here's my thought. And I saw this. Ryan and I called a guy and it was asking him if he wanted to be somebody donates to tent makers. It's a Christian non-for-profit. And he's like, well, before I give you my money, I'm going to need you to send me over all your Christian beliefs and where, all these things. And he's like, but do you go soul winning on Saturday afternoon at 3:00? Well, I mean, if you're not doing that, I'm not sure if I want my money coming to you. Like, really? Really? That's your deciding, factor there is like, I don't do exactly what you do on Saturday afternoon. So no, your organization is not worth my money.
Correct.
And that's exactly probably what they run into here. Why it's not more, because they had to like come out with their criteria, and there were people looked at him like, well, there's this one thing you do that I just don't feel is up to my standards of good.
Yeah.
But they have no problems going and watching the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's one of the things that are most disappointing. And so, that's not what you started this on.
You said no controversial takes. I mean, that might be the most controversial one yet, Gary.
Well, I mean, I think the devil's done a really good job since Eve and Adam saying, like, let's create a confused mind.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, what better way to get good never to be great just by creating confusion to everybody of what good is?
Amen.
And so, like, I don't think the devil's over there on the other side going, hey, I want you guys confused on what evil is.
Right.
Like, I think we all pretty much know what evil is. Watch the Super Bowl, right? Like, you'll see it at halftime. I mean, it's pretty evil.
Oh, I thought you were going to say this game was so bad.
No. I mean, well, maybe if you're a Kansas City Chief, then it's a little evil. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen the refs go from, like, really idolizing somebody to, like, not calling anything for them. So, like, they really got called out on that one. But, no, I mean, I think that's, I applaud them. I applaud them for what their efforts are. I think it's sad that they probably had to do 10 times the amount of work to get that than any other organization that's out there. That's right. And honestly, if the Americans or Christians in our world today would come together and just for 90 days take the money that we spend on so much evil in this world and push it towards that, how much better would that production been? How much more money would they raise? So we probably wouldn't have had to work so hard for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Good take.
So
you should go watch it. It's good. It's free. It's on. They're exclusive with Amazon Prime now.
Now we're giving out ads for Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just don't watch TV.
Charge them for the episode.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's good. All right, that's it.
And it's controversial, but I don't really care.
Do it. Say it.
Consider yourself rebuked. Harvard Business Review.
You have to earn the right to get to the next level.
Process audit, not people audit.
I just want to see this done faster.
How many licks does it actually take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I was kind of being facetious a little bit.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
It's true.
But we can cut that out.